Guys, we're going to look at blacksmithing and Dragonflight. We're going to take a look at how you can potentially make gold, look at the knowledge trees, the best way to spend your knowledge, and what I think of this profession as of right now in beta. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. This is going to be crazy. Yeah, first off, let's take a look at what you can craft. We'll have to open up all the recipes, and well, there's no surprises here. We get some intermediate materials. This is going to be relevant for crafting, obviously. We have a finishing reagent. This is just used to increase your skill, which we'll get into. Then you have armor. You have epic armor, including very powerful extra effect armor that's already pre-embellished, like this one. Then you have normal epic armor that you can embellish yourself. And then there's some rare armor for level 70 and even some PvP armor at level 70 as well, green. So that's pretty much it for armor. There's a couple of shields, including some epic ones and a rare one for level 70 for just entry level gearing. And the same story for weapons. You have various epic weapons. I'm not quite sure what the difference between Obsidian Seared and Primal Molten is, except for where you get the recipes, and then you have the rare weapons. Profession tools, these are going to be extremely important because they increase your profession skill. Some consumables tools, and then weapon enhancements, so weight stones and razor stones, pretty much what you have in Dragonflight to increase the power of your weapon or profession bonus. There's a pet, and there's some dragon riding cosmetics. The most economically relevant recipes here are, well, they're going to be weapons and armor. Always weapons and armor. Why? Because they're the people are most interested in paying for powerful gear. That's the #1 thing they want to buy early on in an expansion. It's what was by far the most profitable thing in Shadowlands, with legendaries and various crafter smart gear, and it's going to be the same here. I also expect profession tools to be pretty good, but there's going to be more people interested in buying weapons than profession tools. More people care about straight up power than care about professions. That's just how the game is. So what you want to do is, obviously, you want to get the weapon recipes, and you want to be able to craft these at a high quality. Quality for items, for gear, increases the item level of the finished item by 2 for each level of quality. So quality 5 is 10 item levels higher than quality 1, essentially. So for these primal molten warglaives, they can go from 386 all the way up to 396, which is obviously not a significant bonus. And as you can see here, the bonus gets higher at the top end. So quality 4 is +7, whereas quality 3 is just +4. So you don't get half the benefit even from quality 3. So you definitely want to get to the higher qualities, quality 4 and quality 5. That's going to be the biggest bonuses, essentially. Well, then, how do you get there? Well, you need to increase your recipe skill. And how do you do that? The main way you do that is through the weapon, the specializations. So for instance, on this character on beta, I have maxed out my skill because there's a book to do that. And then we have put in some points in weaponsmithing, blades, and then long blades. So now we have unlocked the recipe, and we've also put 25 points into the end node because you get a bunch of +5 skill, +10 skill, +5 skills. This gives you a lot of extra value. And if you put 25 points in, you can also use the illustrious insight to increase your skill even further. Why does all this matter? Well, if we go down to the Primal Molten Wrong Sword recipe, we can see that I have skill 185. I can even add this. This gets me to 215, and now I can almost craft it at quality 4 consistently. And this is just with the entry-level material. So this is why specializations matter. And we're going to look at some different setups for specializations in terms of like what is the optimal unlock order. So this is the optimal order for maxing out the skill of one specific craft. You want to put 10 points in the base node, 10 points in the next node to unlock the first specialization. And then you want to put 25 points in the end node. This is true for literally every weapon type or armor type. So if you wanted to do armor, you'd put 10 points in armor smithing, 10 points in fine armor, for instance, and then 10 points, and then 25 points in bracers, which would get you the same benefit. The last node for all of these is insanely useless. Learn how to craft and use the Master's Hammer in order to freely repair maces and hammers. Who cares? So these last 5 points, that's just 5 skill, completely worthless, in my opinion. compared to, because if you put 5 points in this base node, then you'll get 5 points here, but you'll also get 5 points for all the other weapon recipes, which is just way better. So that's sort of how I view the trees. First, you want to get to 25 in an end node, and then you can either put points here to try to go for this one, or put more points here and then go towards the other weapon types. Probably more effective to go for this one, because you can put 25 points here faster than you can get to the end of one of the other weapon types, because you have to go through this. That's for weapons. Now another thing that you need is the alloys, the intermediate materials. This primal molten, it requires primal molten alloy. And the quality of your material has a huge effect on your skill. As you can see here, I'm using right now quality 1 materials. My skill is 185. Let's swap to quality 2 materials. My skill is now 223. That's a 50 gap. Then we put in the max quality materials, and we're now 260, which is 75 higher than if I use only the lowest quality of materials. And we can see that just swapping to max quality materials immediately puts me into quality 4 with what I've unlocked. And if I add this, we're now at 290. And if I'd had full profession slots, if I had the profession accessory and the better blacksmithing hammer that gives plus 10, then I'd be at 300, and we could craft this consistently at quality 5. But what's interesting is that it's really hard to craft quality 3 primal molten alloy, because this is a recipe difficulty 325. And even if you max out specialty smithing and smelting and hammer control, this generic node that gives profession skill with every profession, this is by the way true for every profession. They have one specialization tree, which just gives you bonuses to literally every craft. And this node gives you a lot. If you max it out, that's 30 points, and you can get 3, 4, 3, so another 10 extra skill. So if you max this out, that's 40 extra skill with every recipe. Now, even if you max this out and max out specialty smithing, which gives you 40 skill points with normal crafts, essentially, everything that's not weapons and stuff, and then you put even 20 points into smelting, even then, you're not going to have enough to craft quality 3 materials consistently. The only time you'll be getting quality 3 is when you proc inspiration. So on this character, where I have, well, not quite, we're still missing 6 potential profession skill here, and we have the racial bonus as well. And we've maxed out all of the nodes for crafting materials. We can get, if we use quality 3 materials, we can get here. We can get to skill level 302, which is not enough for 325, which means that the only time we get quality 3 is when we proc inspiration, which is 9% of the time. And if we hover over this, we can see that I get 114 bonus skill, which means that there's no point in going this high on skill. I can literally use quality 1 materials, and I'd still pass 325. So now I have 221, which means I need 104 skill to get to quality 3, and I get 114 bonus skill when I get inspiration, which means that I pass 325. So I'll do this, and I'll get the exact same amount of quality 3 materials as I would if I put in quality 3 base materials here. So you literally rely 100% on inspiration if you want to craft quality 3 primal molten alloys, which is going to be hugely important for blacksmiths. So what this means is that if you're planning to have a crafter specifically for the alloys, then you want to stack inspiration on all of your profession gear. And you want to definitely max out this one as well. Poignant plants, it gives inspiration. Inspiration is extremely good for crafting alloys. It's literally the only stat that matters early on, because it's impossible to get to 325 consistently. And quality 3 materials have, as I showed you earlier, is just an absolutely massive effect on the finished items. And this is true for all of the alloys, by the way. They all have skill 325, which can't really be naturally reached without inspiration, which means you need to just stack inspiration for quality 3. Not sure how high you can push this. I haven't tried yet, but this is definitely the number you want. You want to push your inspiration as high as possible. The higher your inspiration, the less your skill can be, which means that you can put less points into these nodes. You might not need to put any points into melting, even if your inspiration is high enough, so you can just go hammer control and then inspiration here, for instance. So now we're going to take a look at maxing out this one specific craft, right? This primal molten longsword. We're going to try to get this to the highest quality possible. So as I showed you already, if you max out your profession accessories and you put 45 points Actually, I have 5 points into hammer control here. So you need 50 points in total. You need these 45 and another 5 skill, actually another 8 skill, which the cheapest way to get that is to push 5 points into hammer control. This will get you to 260 base skill with the, or rather, if you don't have anything, it will get you to 185 base skill. Without max quality materials, then you add max quality materials and you're at 260, and then you add the finishing reagent, you're 290, and you can actually be 10 more here. So that puts you at 300, and you can craft consistent quality 5, which is important since this is bind and pickup. So what's the next level? Well, there's a couple of other ways to increase the power of the item. You have the infusions. This increases the item level dramatically to like heroic and mythic grade item level, and increases the recipe difficulty. So if you wanted to craft mythic item level, then that's plus 50 recipe difficulty, which means this number is now 350. So now you need to get another 50 skill from somewhere. If you add the embellishment, if you want to customize secondary stats at the highest quality missives, that's plus 15 recipe difficulty. And then you have embellishments, which have very strong effects, at least some of these. For instance, you have the potion absorption inhibitor, which increases the duration of your Dragon Isles potions by 50%. That's very strong. You get that on top of the stats, so you're gonna want 2 embellished items. It makes it unique equipped, so you can only have 2 embellished items, but you definitely want 2 of those because these effects are extremely strong. And they add 25 recipe difficulty if you have the highest quality one. So we'll take a look at that first. So 25 extra for embellished and quality 5. We need to find 25 more points. Well, that's pretty easy. Just put 25 more points into these 2 nodes. There's no like bonuses here. So you can put 25 points. You can put 20 here and 5 here, or 20 here and 5 here, or even just put 25 points into hammer control node. Personally, I'd lean towards putting 20 points in blades, or at least 10 points in blades, and then 20 points here, or the 15 points into weaponsmithing. That way I unlock short blades, so I get another weapon type, and I put as many points in the base node as possible, because that gives you skill with every weapon type, which is more flexible for the long term, and just as good for the items you already unlock. So that's what we do next. We'd put 10 points here. That would unlock the next specialization, and then we put 15 points here. Boom. Now we can unlock this side as well. We're not going to put any points in there yet. So we can see now, if we go back to the Primal Molten Longsword and add an embellishment, well, we'd see now that if we add this, we're at 315, and we have 10 extra skill from this, so we're at 325, and we can craft it with a max rank embellishment. This requires a total of, well, you can see right here, we have 70 points of knowledge, and then another 5 here for 75 total knowledge required to get to quality 5 with an embellishment. So if you then want to add the items to increase the item level, well, if you want to add this one and craft quality 5, the heroic one, then you just need another 5 skill points. So you can put that anywhere. You can put that in weaponsmithing, you can put that in hammer control. Probably weaponsmithing. Just max this out. It gives you some faster weapon crafting. Maxing out this one doesn't really matter that much because the quenching fluids don't matter. It's a completely irrelevant finishing reagent. So it's better to put 5 points here, and that will apply to all of the weapons. So then you'd put the next 5 points there. That's a small breakpoint though. The next breakpoint up is if you want to craft with plus 50 and an embellishment. Craft the absolute best piece of gear. Perhaps you'd even want to craft with a draconic missive as well, but that's actually impossible without profession skill. So if you add, well, if you add everything, 300, and then you get 50 from here, so that's 350, then you add 25 from here, 375. That means we need to get another 60, or actually another 50, because I have 10 from the weapons, another 50 recipe skill. So where can I get another 50 skill? Well, I can get 5 points here, I can get 10 points here, I can get 5 points here. So I can get 20 points here for the swords. And then there's another 25 plus 7. There's another 32 points in this tree. So as you can see, I have a couple of points to spare. I can get 52 more points of skill, essentially, if I max out everything. And that's what you have to do to get there. So that would mean maxing out hammer control, which is a very good node. And then I'd have to match out weaponsmithing. I'd have to max out blades. and I'd need to max out long blades as well. Actually, I wouldn't need to max it completely out. I'd still be like, could be a couple of points short, and that'd be fine. So we can see now, if I add this, we're now at 367, actually 377 when we add the skill from full weapons, and we need 375 to craft with the plus 50 infusion and the plus 25 from embellishment. But then I can't pick the stats. If I pick the stats as well, that would put me all the way up at 390, which you can't reach without a profession skill bonus, and even then you can't actually reach it consistently. So if you want to craft with like absolutely everything, pick the right stats, pick the recipe difficulty, pick an embellishment, you have to rely on inspiration. You'll only get there 10% of the time, or whatever your current inspiration is, which is kind of interesting. You can't actually craft the absolute best crafted gear without getting lucky from inspiration. But what does that mean? Well, it's hard to say. I think people are definitely going to want embellishments and primal infusions. Realistically, losing out on 3 extra item level from being like 3 item level lower if you have both the embellishment and the secondary stats, not going to be that bad. And then of course you can just recraft it. So you can recraft it until you get lucky. And as you can see here, recrafting is not really that expensive. Now the big question is, can you recraft other people's gear? I haven't tested out work orders. But assuming you can recraft, then that's probably what you'll have to do, which means you'll have to put in another infusion. I'm not sure what happens if it has been infused, because I can't find these on beta at the moment. I haven't found them on any of the vendors. If someone's on beta and they actually exist, then do let me know so I can actually test this out for the next video. But that's what we see here. If you add everything, then you just have to get lucky, which means that inspiration might be a much better skill than I initially thought. It's going to be necessary for alloy crafting, and it's potentially useful for like absolute max level gear, because it's impossible to get to 390 skill. Even if I also had the profession skill here, that would just be another 5. We get another 15, so we can get another 15 over everything else maxed out. So that's 367 plus 15, which is not 390. That's not 390. That's going to be 382, which still leaves us 8 points short essentially. And these finishing reagents here, they don't help at all. They don't help at all. So you can't quite get there, sadly. You can't quite get there. But you can't craft everything else. You can't craft everything else, and the breakpoints are, as I showed you earlier, so just get back and you can get them. The most important one is for consistent quality 5 with 0 upgrades. That's going to be at 50 knowledge. And the next point is going to be 75. That's where you can craft with embellishments. Then 80 is where you can craft with the heroic item level upgrade. So, and then it's at another 25 above that is where you can craft with the embellishment and the heroic bonus. And then finally you need like absolutely everything, which is a total of 120. Now, the power of the racial, I didn't cover this, but the racial is very strong, particularly early on, because it allows you to do a little trick. The thing that the racial does is it gives you 5 extra skill if you get to max skill. So that means that you can essentially save 5 points. And where's the best point to save those 5 skill points for a specific recipe? Well, it's in the end node, because that doesn't affect other recipes. So I can essentially not put in these last 5 points in long blades, and I can still craft a quality 5 mythic infused embellished item consistently. I can still do that and not put the final 5 points in here. That means that the next recipe is going to be just 25 points away instead of, that's going to save me 10 points for the next recipe. And then it's going to save me 15 less total knowledge for maxing out the next recipe. And then 15 more total knowledge saved, or 5 more. So once I've maxed out this part of the tree, I'll have saved 20 knowledge, because I don't have to put, I can save 5 knowledge points for every end node. And be equal to someone who's maxed this out completely and doesn't have the blacksmithing profession bonus. So if you're Alliance, then you should 100% have your blacksmith be a dark iron dwarf. And if you haven't already, you should literally level a dark iron dwarf during the pre-patch to have as your blacksmith. There's one other potential way that I wanted to look at or talk a little bit about, and that's if the quality 1 gear turns out to sell well. So people might be interested in buying loads of quality 1 gear, and that would lead to a completely different strategy. If that's the case, then you want to put 10 points here, 10 points here, and then you get the recipe. And then maybe you put another 5 points here to get both weapon recipes. And then you go back here, 10 more points here to unlock the final sub-specialization. And then you put 5 points here, and you get both recipes. Then you go back and put 10 points here, 10 points here, and get another recipe. You just focus on getting recipes. Now this will only work in the beginning. You have to do this when people are potentially willing to pay real money for quality 1 gear. This has some potential advantages. It means you have more different recipes available for sale. And leveling your profession is going to be really hard, because from skill 50, you're only going to be crafting stuff like this, which requires Spark of Ingenuity, which is Bind and Pickup. It requires Primal Chaos. I'm assuming both of these are going to be time-gated, so you can't farm these for yourself. Which means you have to craft this for other players through crafting orders to actually get to skill 50. I honestly think it's possible that you might have to buy this if you want to get to skill 100 within the first day, which is going to be really strong, by the way. Then you probably have to pay people to send you crafting orders. Like, I'm paying for Spark of Ingenuity and Primal Chaos, and you might have to pay a lot of gold if you want to power level your profession. But then you have a lot of different recipes available, so you have more different items that you can craft for players. So if quality 1 gears actually turns out to be something that you can sell through crafting orders for a profit, then going wide early on might pay off. Although personally, I'm leaning more towards the specialization route as the one I think is most likely to pay off. That's probably where I'll be going. Which recipe is the best? It's impossible to say at this moment. I think weapons are going to be better, but I think most people also think that weapons are going to be better, which might make armor better. And then which armor types are you going to prioritize? Probably I'd prioritize stuff that leads to the extremely powerful embellished raid drop armors, which you can buy the recipes on the auction house, by the way. But yeah, it's impossible to say because it depends on what everyone else is doing. There's also the very intriguing part or strategy of going just smelting alloys and trying to be the first or among the first in your region that has significant amount of alloys at quality 3 for sale. That's also a very good way to go, but it does mean that you'll probably have to put in a decent amount of your points into, or at least more points into inspiration-based nodes than you would if you're going straight for weaponsmithing. The recipe sources, this is also quite interesting or relevant. Some of these recipes actually drop from the raid, but are tradable on the auction house. So this is something that you want to keep your eye out for. There's a surprising amount of these that are purchasable on the auction house. These you want to keep your eye out and buy. They're going to be very expensive, but those recipes are also extremely strong. But yeah, that's it. That's how blacksmithing looks. For me, I think weapons and armor are both very intriguing ways to go. Weapons for the obvious reason. Everyone wants to prioritize getting a good weapon because it's the most important slot for their performance. But there are also some very, very strong armors here, the ones that are pre-embellished. But in the raid, if you have 4 people within 30 yards of you, you're going to get almost 200 extra versatility. You can see that the base item at item level 386 has 300 secondary stats. This gives you another 200 secondary stats, which is a very, very strong bonus. There's other things with potentially strong ones. Damaging a new enemy grants you 189 haste for 10 seconds, up to 5 stacks. Just imagine this in Mythic Plus. It's obviously extremely good. Going to be blasting on the pull. Certain classes might like this quite a lot. And there's similar effects. There's some PvP weapons, there's or PvP items specifically. There's a lot of very strong embellished effects here. Yeah, what are you thinking? Liking blacksmithing? Got any thoughts? Anything I didn't cover? Because I haven't played much beta. I've literally just been looking at this, so there might be something I'm completely missing. Yeah, overall this is looking extremely intriguing. Tons of complexity, tons of stuff to figure out, tons of different breakpoints. I'm gonna have fun with this, guys. This is just perfect for me. We'll keep covering any changes that come around. So yeah, thanks for watching. This was a long one.